Okay, so nail gun. I'm going to touch, but I won't do anything with these pieces. I'm just gonna borrow them. Okay, so for the next, what's that?
Rental fee.
Yes, okay, sure. Okay, so the next step, what we're gonna be doing is you're gonna take your 16-inch boards and you're gonna line them up with your legs after they've been cut on the table saw. And this is a good opportunity to just make sure everything's straight, everything's the right size. And so you're gonna do that with both of them. So you're gonna have 16s for other legs. Then once we like them, we're going to glue and nail them together. So a couple different techniques. You can put glue all the way down. Remember, there's a little bit of space. So glue, and then you can rest them all along here. They're gonna be touching each other, keeping it in line with the edge, in line with the top. If you got any fraying, you can kind of pull that away, or you can even just grab a piece of sandpaper and just kind of gently move that out of the way, anything like that. So let's say we've got the glue, then we hold it in place, and then we can nail. I'll talk about the nail gun in just a second. Some ideas on how to get those nails exactly where you want them. You could take one of your extra legs. So actually, we want this to stay there. Boom, you could take an extra leg. And since you know 1.5 inches is the thickness of your leg, you could put it down like so, drop it over, and then you know this is the space that you have to work with. And then I would just take a pencil and maybe make 3 or 4 marks like so, and then do your best to aim and fire with your nail gun into those. What I see people doing is nailing a little too close to the edge, and what the nail is going to want to do is travel to the easiest place it can, and it's going to want to leave the piece of wood. So making sure that you're right in the middle will give you the best target. And then you'll do the same for the other side, glue, nail, and then the same for the other 2 legs and the other 16s. And then you'll pick both of those boards up and you'll put the 17s across, flip it, and then you'll finish the box with the other 17s. So we have 2 nail guns, so I like to do this as soon as someone's ready so you can jump right on it. Like I said, you can also be routing the legs of or the edges of your legs. Okay, nail gun, let's talk about it. So there's 16, 18, and 20 gauge, here, I'll take that out. 16, 18, and 20 gauge nails and nail guns. And so you find that number on the nail gun as well as on the box of nails that you choose. 16 is really thick, a little bit more structural, 18 is right in the middle, and 20 is really small, like a pin nail, maybe for a picture frame, and you just want a little nail to help hold the glue to dry. So 18 is going to be right in the middle. It's not referencing the size or the length, say, just the thickness of the nail itself. And then these are brad nails. What a brad nail is, doesn't have much of a head at all. Something like a wire nail you can get in small packets would have a little bit more of a head. You'll get wire nails or brad nails, but those will have a little bit more of a surface area to actually grab the wood. But something like a wire nail you might see. So these nails are nice because they tuck away a little bit, especially with something like cedar that might swell a little bit with water. It might even cover that hole. So our nails, the size that I chose is 1 1/4. Ideally you want it to go through your piece and then about twice that distance or the same distance into the next board. So 1 1/4 is just about that. In order to load the nail gun, I've taken the battery out, but we're gonna squeeze the bottom here and it pulls, and then you're gonna put the sharp end into this groove and you go ahead and slam it shut. And then the safety needs to be pressed down before you can operate. The top here, this is just a release mechanism if something were to get stuck, so you don't need to worry about that. It's just right here to load the nails. What I like to do is on the side of the table, you'll see a bunch of X's. I make a little X and I try my first nail into the side of the leg. So I'll go ahead and let you guys hear what that sounds like. So we'll put the battery in. You're going to press that safety down. And then what I want you to practice, whether you're down here on the leg or when you come up here onto your piece, is how can you tell if it's straight? This is a pretty round, kind of bulky tool, so it's not as obvious to find, say, a 90-degree angle. So what I like to do is I use this here and I'll pivot so that it's really obvious if I'm going this way or this way. When it's going this direction, I can't really tell, and maybe I'll tend to accidentally go this way and the nail's gonna travel outside the wood. So I'll actually pivot it like so. So here's what it sounds like. So we're gonna push the safety down and then squeeze and hold, and then it kind of releases like so. If you needed to make any small adjustments to the nail, so if you wanted the nail a little bit further out of the wood on this tool, there's a little dial here, and then there's an indicator here. So if it goes to the right, it's saying pull the nail a little bit further out of the wood, and if it's going to the left, it's saying push it a little bit further into the wood. You don't need to worry too much about that, but that's just kind of nice to know. Okay, so any questions about this step? I'll pull it up on the slideshow. And yeah, just a quick refresher, 16s on your legs. And then you're gonna lift up and put the 17s on. When you're using the glue, I've got a few dip bottles here. They might need a little refill. And you can just squeeze that on, kind of spread it out. And the ooze is good. Ooze means that there's a lot of contact, and we don't need to worry so much about the ooze because it's gonna be hidden, meaning if it was on the exterior of your piece, you're not gonna be able to stain it if that was something that you wanted to do. So sometimes you have to be careful with glue, but in this circumstance, we love the ooze and we don't need to worry so much about it. We'll just make sure we wipe it off the table. Awesome, okay. Nail gun, when you're ready, will be right here. Also double check that there's nails in there because there is force in here that'll actually puncture a little air hole even if there's no nail. So always check your magazine. Here are the nails to refill, glue when you need, and all your pieces. Thanks for letting me borrow that. We'll talk about fees later.
Okay.
All right.